Well, good evening, folks. How we all? It is CFN Live yet again. Today it is yet another Monday that we're going to join some time together. Hopefully, you all had a fantastic weekend. We have lots to talk about, lots to discuss, and there is lots going on. So, without further ado, let's get right to it. First and foremost, let's say hello to some of the. I want to say the foundation, if you will. Dean Howard, how you doing, buddy? Always a pleasure to see you. Tony's in the house. Thanks for joining us as well, Tony. Steven's here. How you doing, Steve? Nice to see you, my friend, and the one and only Mr. Shaw. How you doing, buddy? Hope all is well in the Shaw family, in the Shaw world. Love seeing the edits, love seeing the interactions, and of course all the comments that the many folks that you put a smile on their face with all these wonderful edits. It's nice to see some of the positive feedback. It's good stuff. Shane Richard, how you doing, buddy? Nice to see you as well. Thanks for joining us on YouTube. And Eve's in the house as well. How you doing, Eve? Always a pleasure to have all of you guys. As I say, it's going to be a bit of a quick show. Big Jim is not going to be with us today. So we have the wondrous and notorious Lawrence Gunther and Jason Barnucz. So again, lots to discuss. There were some tournaments that happened this weekend we want to get to. There's some tournaments that are happening this upcoming weekend that we also want to get to, but lots to talk about, lots to go on. Gary, how you doing, buddy? And I'm going to thank you now for the video, the live that you shared on Facebook. You're going to see it again or in little snippets tonight. So big shout out. Thank you to you, Gary, for taking that, and congratulations to your son. I think that is absolutely awesome, but good to see that. We'll be talking about that later. But first and foremost, let's get through some of the news articles. If you are in and competing the CFN Fish Shop, I have to remind you that if you are looking for a very, very reasonable bump board, you got to head over to Go Large Fish Ruler. These folks have done a marvelous job creating these bump boards, and they have them for sale. They're available. Unfortunately, this year they do not have our logo on it. We just couldn't get it done in time, but next year I can guarantee you we're going to be working in the off season, and we will get our logos on these wonderful bump boards. But in the meantime, if you want one, you're just in the midst of competing. I know we only got about a week left. Not even a little bit less than a week. Yeah, but a week left. So it might not be advantageous for you to do this year, but we're definitely keep it in mind next year. Tomorrow, I'm going to hopefully do something for Fraternity Tuesday. I know Mike's getting the name wheel together. He's unfortunately not home. So he's out of the country and enjoying some time off with the family. But I will hopefully get the draws done tomorrow by myself. But anyway, with Mike's help, of course, because he's got to put the wheels together. So stay tuned to that. It is drawing to a close, but it is, of course, our 10th anniversary here at CFN. Very proud moment, incredible milestone. And I will say some of you folks that are watching right now are the reason we're still here. So a big shout out, thank you to all of you who have supported us in one way or another. Can't thank you enough for getting us there. And we would love to dress you up and see you wearing some CFN swag. Please get a hold of Richard Dunlop if you're looking for one of these hoodies or, of course, one of these glorious Flex Fit hats. Because it is our 10th anniversary, we have a commemorative 10th anniversary jersey that's available. Some of you wonderful CFNers are wearing it as we speak, and due to the purchase of these jerseys, it looks as if our Derby on Wheels is going to be a thing. It's actually going to happen. It's quite exciting. We're looking forward to making those announcements as we move forward. But yeah, it's a thing. It's the real deal. Of course, we just had our 7th annual CFN retreat at Horwood Lake Lodge. I am happy to announce that because it was such a success this year, currently right now, Warren sent me this text, and it says we have 19 plus you booked for the retreat. At this moment, there are 2 4-bedroom cabins empty at the moment and 3 beds available in another 4-bedroom cabin. So there are still spots. We're halfway there, or I would say more than halfway there. But there are still rooms available. And if you are a little concerned about the shared accommodations, no problem. As you can see, there's a cabin there that's empty. Put your name on it. Get some buddies. get some friends, get some family, and we'd love to see you up there for what is going to be another incredible year of fishing, another great event next year at Horwood Lake Lodge. In the meantime, of course, it is our OFC Nation retreat, 4th annual. And of course, it is the wonderful and beautiful Camp McIntosh. There are still spots available there, but I just want to give you an update. This is courtesy of Tracy. So that's who we have. You can see where the white spots are. We still have room. So we're looking forward to it. There's actually cabin 5 is completely open. So if you are interested in joining us for our OFC Nation retreat, love to have you up there. And as it stands right now, there is an entire cabin that's available. So please reach out to our wonderful folks up there at Camp McIntosh, Andre and Tracy. That's all the information you need to know. And if you're not fully aware of Camp McIntosh, what it has, what it offers, and all that in between, have a look at this.
And there's a place that I've dreamed of, where I can free my mind. I hear the sounds of the season and lose all sense of time. Feels like we're in a dream, you know what I mean.
So that's all the information you need right there. Please get a hold of Andre and Tracy. It is coming up very soon. It's going to be basically a month. It's going to be a month, and we will be there. It finalizes the summer for us. It is the last big event that we have, so it's a beautiful way to end it. It's not that far out of Toronto if you are close to Toronto, and really it's not that far south if you are up in the north and like to enjoy some Georgian Bay fishing right at the mouth of the French River. It's really, really cool. Well, with all that to be said, of course, the CISA event is going to be happening this weekend. I don't have anything drawn up other than this, and this isn't the correct photo. Unfortunately, we're not supposed to be using this because they have a major sponsor in Milwaukee that we're very proud of. They're very proud of. But the expo is happening. We have right now 11 confirmed vendors that will be scattered on the grass right down by the waterfront in Kingston. It's happening this weekend. Love to see you folks come down right at the waterfront. It's going to be a festival. They've got the street closed down. There's going to be a bunch of sticks down there, great anglers, and it should be a great time because I'll tell you right now, it's impossible to get a hotel room in the town of Kingston. Absolutely impossible. So it should be great, should be fun, and a lot of folks will be down there to help you out if you're not. Best way to describe it. And then, of course, the NC00, and it's just WO. North Channel Walleye Open is happening 19th to the 20th. We still have spots available. We've capped it at 40 boats. We were hoping to get 80, but we're going to cap it at 40. Things are tough in the tournament trail this year, and I know we've talked about it at great length here at CFN, but it's tough getting folks to register for tournaments, and I think a lot of it is due to cost. I think people with they got to make things a priority, and unfortunately, fishing tournaments just might not be a number one priority. But we're doing our best to make sure that something is worthy of anglers to sign up in, and I look forward to this event like there's no other. We're gonna have a lot of fun with some of the vendors that are going to be coming up, of course, Bruce and Adrian. We're going to have a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to that. Also, Vertex Baits is going to be joining us as a vendor, not to mention, of course, Powell Casting, the Powell Plastics, and the entire Powell family. They'll be up there as well. So as I said, vendors are going to be well represented. They are going to represent our Made in Canada platform. And if you're like me and support the Made in Canada fishing industry, by all means, join us up in Spanish. We'd love to see you there. It's right down at the Spanish Marina. So again, I will reserve you a spot personally. All right. Well, we've got, as I said, no Big Jim tonight. I want to wish him safe travels because right now he's in the midst of driving, I'm pretty sure. But we've got Lawrence and Jay Barnucz, and we're going to have Lawrence come up right after a word from our sponsor.
What is Flash Boost? Shimano designed innovative Flash Boost technology. It keeps flashing, which attracts fish whether in a pause or while retrieving. The mirror plate, which is fixed by a spring inside the body, vibrates with the lure action to generate diffuse reflection. Even if you stop the lure action, the inner plate will move and continue to flash, giving the lure a sense of life and inviting a fish bite. This is Flash Boost.
There he is, the one and only Lawrence Gunther. How you doing, my friend?
Good, buddy. How are you?
Oh, fantastic. We missed you last week.
I know. I was totally off grid, and just we had so many volunteers up at the Exploration Center, and there was so many things going on, and anyways, I totally forgot to check in with you, my friend, and I apologize for that.
Oh, no need. I'm sure Jim's got a letter on your file again.
That'll make 7.
Right? I'm waiting for my first. I'm sure I'm pretty close. I got to have one soon myself. But Lawrence, as I said, you are busy. Can you give us an update about the research center?
Yeah, we had we were expecting a couple new bunkies to be delivered, and then that got delayed and changed around. And anyways, it finally happened, and then so we had a 10 by 12 bunkie delivered. And then I guess it's probably about 5 feet by 8 feet, and that's an accessible outhouse, a wheelchair accessible outhouse. So we had that delivered as well, all in the same truck. And so they came in. Our good man Kyle, the tow truck driver, brought it in, no damage. We weaved around all the pine trees and got the 2 buildings dropped off at the spots we wanted, and so that was a big. Then we leveled them off and did the finishing touches. So that was all good. So we got one more building to come in. That'll be this fall. It's a 10 by 22 foot long meeting/dining hall. So that's going to be the last building. Yeah, and then my compound will be complete.
The compound. You make it sound like this dark place. It's anything dark. It's going to be enlightening, and I'm looking forward to seeing the I guess the final stage, the final to be installed in this. But
we're building ramps now on all the buildings, so all the ramps are going in, and things are moving, buddy. Things are moving.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, you have an interesting topic that you want to talk about tonight, and I'm intrigued to see where it's going to go. We are going to lean on you folks too in the comments to voice some questions, concerns, advice, or just how you feel in regards to the topic that we're going to talk tonight about. And I will let Barnucz take it from there.
Well, like Scotty, I wanted to ask you and the listeners. I'm just finalizing this chapter on recreational fishing for the book that's going to come out this fall called Eating Lake Ontario. And I've been asked to write the chapter on recreational fishing. There's going to be a chapter on fish consumption advisories, on First Nations fishers, on commercial fishing, on water quality, everything that relates to the fish in Lake Ontario and who eats them and why we eat them or not. But, how do you distinguish recreational anglers from fishers and from commercial fishing, and just the whole evolution of how recreational anglers approach fishing has changed in just 2 generations, right? Like 2 generations or even 1 generation ago, depending on how old you are, people just caught and ate everything they caught and caught their limit, tried to catch their limit, and brought everything home.
So it's a tough topic to start with. See, because there is that concern that you're only to eat so much, depending on the size, the species, this, that, and everything else. So I don't envy you coming up with this right from the get-go, because it's a tough subject. I would say at times to talk about. Depending on where you are on the fence. But if you're like me and you're dead set right on it, and you're not on either side, you just sit back and you listen. And this is going to be one of those times where I'm really going to listen to you, Lawrence, as well as our guests tonight, because I'd like to see what their take is on this.
Well, I was hoping to listen to you.
No. Oh boy.
I did listen to Bob Azumi on a podcast we recorded a little while ago, and he talked about his father being instrumental in bringing live release tournament fishing to Lake Ontario for bass tournaments. And he said prior to that, it was catch them, kill them, weigh them, and eat them. Yeah. And all bass tournaments were like that. And his Bob Azumi's dad said, you know what, let's weigh these fish alive and return them to the lake so other people can have a chance to catch them. And that caught on. That was in the 1980s. And I think it caught on really well, right? Just from a moral perspective. First of all, it was a tournament rule, became tournament rule. And then now look at all the bass fishing tournaments have adopted that rule pretty quick. But it became a moral imperative amongst bass anglers. You rarely see someone in a bass boat catching and keeping fish and bringing them home to eat them, right? And it's just frowned on. It's like a carp angler from England coming to Canada, and they'd never kill a carp. They'd rather give up their second child before they'd kill a carp.
It's an interesting topic, and you're 100% right. How we view fish and how fish are viewed across the world. I mean, down in the States, we know, bass is almost like a delicacy, especially for, the Southern contingent. They love their bass. Yeah. And, they eat it quite often. I have quite a few friends down in the States that show me pictures of small stringers. They go out to farm ponds and wherever, and they will catch these bass, and they love eating them. I'm not a big eater of bass. It's not to say that I wouldn't do it, but if I had a preference, bass wouldn't be it. So right off the bat, when I catch a bass, you can pretty much guaranteed I'm releasing that fish.
That's but for you, it's a choice about like a personal choice about what you prefer to eat, right? It's not a moral decision like these bass cannot be harmed by any in any name, shape or form. You're saying no, I'd rather eat a walleye. So there you go. Like, you're not against eating fish, just prefer to eat something other than bass.
100%. Like, there's people out there that eat muskie. I could never see myself sit down and eat a muskie. I'd have a hard time killing a muskie for the sake of food. And not to say that it's a bad idea. It's not certainly something that I want to promote and show support of, because that is a fragile fishery, and we have to do everything we can to make sure that we keep it sustained and vibrant. But depending on fish, and Steve's brought up some great points already. I wonder if it depends on the way you prepare your fish. And it's funny you say that, Steve, because bass is, in my opinion, one of those fish that has a gamey taste. Are there ways to take that out of the fish? 100%. Some will say soak it in water. Some will say soak it in milk. Others will say soak it in wine. I've heard lots of different ideas on how to get that gamey taste out, because at the end of the day, it's the flesh we want, but it has to be desirable from a palate's perspective, and not everybody loves fish. Right off the bat,
there's that. Yeah,
everybody loves fish.
Yeah. Some people would rather eat a porcupine than eat a fish. It's just they're not into eating fish at all. And it's funny, some people who love fishing just will never eat fish. They just hate the taste of fish. So it's not a moral thing for them either. It's just they just find it horrible to eat fish.
And I will say this, and I do appreciate it, because we unfortunately at our retreats we do find the odd person that does not like eating fish. Someone that might shock quite a few people, but Tyler Brooks is an avid angler, and I would say a well-known name. Has caught an incredible amount of fish over his lifetime, and does not like to eat fish. Now, he has eaten the odd bit up at the retreat, and I was pretty pleased and honored to see him do that. But at the end of the day, there are people out there that just don't. They love to fish, but they don't like to eat it, and we have to be attuned to that as well.
And then there's some people who say that, if you're going to catch a fish and put the fish through the process of being caught, you should definitely just harvest that fish. And anything less is playing with your food, quote unquote, and sort of almost sadistic, right? So you have like countries like Germany where, if you go trout fishing, you have to keep every trout you caught until you caught your limit, and then you're done. No more fishing for that day. And because of that ethical philosophy or ethical belief that, anything, it's wrong to brutalize or harm fish needlessly if you're not going to eat them. And I know other people who are really strong conservationists, and they feel, hey, you can go out and catch a few fish and bring them home for dinner, and nothing wrong with that, but maybe you don't need to catch and release 100 of them to do it, and so there's something to be said, and I'm not sure where you draw the line on that. Like, personally, I don't bring fish home every time I go fishing. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But at the same time, if I find a school of fish and I'm not in a tournament, I don't feel like I have to, you know what they say when you're fishing in a tournament, never leave fish to find fish.
Yep.
But I don't feel I need to do that. I don't feel like I need to catch every last fish down there under my boat before I move on.
I just thought of something, and I'd love to hear your answer on this.
Yeah.
Do you regard fishing as a pastime, or do you regard fishing as a sport?
That's a good question, because what defines recreational fishing and sport fishing? Like, you have the International Game Fish Association, and they're talking about sport fishing all the time, right? And then you have, other people who just have a fishing rod and go fishing, and it's purely recreational. And yeah, maybe they bring fish home for food, and that's just a bonus. But it's just a day on the water and a beautiful way to pass a day. It's relaxing, it's meditative, it's peaceful. You get away from everything. I love going fishing for all those reasons. But I have to admit, I have found myself in a position where I was really addicted to the sport of fishing, and I was doing 12, 18 tournaments a year. And putting that as my priority. And I thought, and then at some point I said to myself, well, you know what, Lawrence, that can't be your priority anymore, because you're at the beginning of the year, the calendar year, you're filling your calendar. I'm filling my calendar with all these tournament dates, and then working in everything else that I'm supposed to do around that, all my charity work and all the other stuff. I'm working around my tournament dates. And I asked Bob Azumi that, and he told me, with his filming, right? He says, the only reason I make a TV show is so I can make money to go fish tournaments.
That's incredible.
And he's retired, and he just goes fishing tournaments now.
What a career he's had! I'll tell you, he's done it right. When you talk about ticking all the boxes, Zoom's ticked more than just one, and I would say in a lot of cases he's probably ticked the same box about 10 times.
But would you watching him on TV, would you see him as a highly competitive individual? He is a highly, highly competitive individual.
Yeah.
But you watch his show and you think he's just the gentlest guy, the most giving, considerate.
And he's both, because some guys, some gals can turn it off, right? They could be on the playing field or in their boat on the lake doing whatever, and still have that competitive nature. But they're able to turn it off. At least I would hope that they're able to turn it off. Unfortunately for me, once I left football, I didn't have a competitive bone in my body. I was done. Like, I just broken. So to get back to the recreational pastime sport, Steve makes a great point. For someone who says that they're playing with your food, well, perhaps you're thinking of it more as a sport, and you don't eat the football, or in Steve's case, the golf ball. So, it for those who understand sport, understand, the essence of what we're doing. When it comes to the catch and release as a pastime or a recreational angler, I would have to say that opens up more possibilities of eating fish. Mark brings up a great point here. A lot of it has to do with size. Some folks will say that the smaller fish taste better. Some love the larger fish. Some, it doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, I do believe, especially if we're talking about Lake Ontario, size does matter.
Well, I think that's an important point, and I think, and anyone who comes to me and says, "Well, you shouldn't play with your food, you're just catching them and torturing them for nothing," and I said, "No, this is an important conservation measure now, because conservation of fish on many water bodies is dependent on slot limits,
right.
right? That you have to release fish of a certain size before you can find a few of us another size that you're allowed to keep." And that now many conservation practices depend on that. So suck on that. That's what I say. I'm practicing conservation here, but knowing that, I also think that there's an ethical responsibility. And I look at Major League Fishing and the rules they've incorporated into their tournament series on how you handle fish, right? No wiping off the slime on your shirt or the deck of your boat, no flipping the fish in the air and having them do a belly flop on the surface of the water when you're letting them go, release them below the gunnel, all these rules. And I think we need to start thinking more about that too, right? Like, if we're going to catch fish and release fish, how do we handle that? What kind of equipment are we going to select? Are we going to use the same equipment we're going to use for tournament fishing, where we want to make sure each and every fish that comes near our bait is cooked right up to the point that it's in the boat? Or can we say, what, maybe we don't need to use that level of gear. Maybe we can use gear that's more causing less injury to the fish, so that we can, when we practice catch and release, the fish go back with minimum fuss.
No, it makes total sense. And folks are answering, like Mitch has said, he's a recreational angler like myself. I do view it as a sport as well, because I'm very involved with tournaments. I'm not in them myself, but I'm certainly involved with them. So I do see it as a sport as well. But I think we're past that point now, that if you are a pastime recreational angler, you do go out and enjoy just being out on the water. But if you do catch an eatable size fish, you will have a tendency to want to eat that fish. Now, when you think of it from a sports perspective, perhaps you're more all catch and release, right? Like I would say, if you're doing it for the sport, you might not be thinking of filling your live well for the sake of taking it home. So I think there's a distinction there that we've come up with. If you're a recreational or it's a pastime that you enjoy just being out on the water, you might be more inclined to keep a fish or two. Whereas a sport angler, I don't believe would be. Would that make sense?
Yeah, but then change the species, and that same behavior from the angler can change radically too. Like, you go out and catch some walleye, recreationally in a non-sports context, and you're thinking, man, I want to catch some eaters here. I want to catch the perfect eaters, right? And then you go bass fishing, and you think, oh no, all the bass got to go back. And so, I think we look at fish differently by species, and maybe it's because of the taste, or maybe it's just because of the value we put on these fish. Like, there's fish, and I still see this, and we still see this often. Rough fish, they're called, or we call them. Some people call them garbage fish. I'm thinking of drum and suckers and things like that. They get the crap beat out of them for no apparent reason, other than the fact that people feel that they're occupying space that they have no reason or right to occupy, and they need to be removed. People treat pike like that. They used to treat pike like that, throw them up on the bank and make sure they, because they were eating their favorite fish. So it's we have weird ideas, lots of weird ideas that translate in how we treat different species of fish. Some people love carp. You come from Eastern Europe, you're keeping all the common carp. You're going fishing for common carp. You're bringing them home.
Yeah.
And it's, in Europe, it's a dish. There's a dish, gefilte fish, right? It's all carp, but we don't eat,
No, 100%. And before we move forward, I love George's comment. His comment is kill them all or release them all. Either way, it guarantees that I have a job. So appreciate your input, George. That's awesome. All right, so we got past the recreation, we got past the sport. Now
Yeah.
we're going out with the intent of keeping fish. Now, some have said, including Mark, size does matter. Species obviously does matter as well. But this is what I love seeing. Richard Dunlop posted, if I have 4 walleye at home, I will not bring any more fish home. So now you're making a conscious decision as well as one that is legally bound. So if you have a keep limit and you have a freezer full of them, then technically, of course, we all know you're not supposed to keep any more fish.
Mm-hmm.
I do understand why they implemented the catch and possession idea of things. I do understand why they did that, but it has also made it very confusing for some. What you have in your possession is not necessarily your daily catch limit, because as we know, if you have 4 in your possession and the limit's 4, you can't catch another fish. So technically you shouldn't be out on the water. How strict are people with that? Did you hold true to that when you were an angler, or like a more of a recreational angler? I don't know so much about
well, I think a lot of people did not know it was a possession issue. Everyone just thought it was on what was on your stringer at the time. Yep. And you just brought it home, and most people just they cleaned the fish and ate them right away, right? Because that's when they taste best. So possession, and and a lot of people having freezer space, a generation or two ago, that was more of a, you had to have a justify why you would have a freezer in your home anyways. But I think people say, well, I'm taking my limit, and I caught my limit that day, and if I add it to my chest freezer and for a rainy day, that's my right. That's my right. I'm exercising my right. I think now that we're saying possession limit, it's a thornier topic in terms of how do you enforce that. Game wardens have the right to enter your home without a search warrant. If they feel that they it's justified, they can go in and check your freezers. There's nothing stopping them. They have more power than a police officer. And is it right? Is it fair? Is it legitimate? But how many people were actually, filling their freezer with fish, and for what purpose? What purpose? Were they really able to eat all those fish that they were putting in that freezer in the first place? I think it was a rare number of people who were doing that. Why they change or enforce possession rules, I don't know, but maybe it's a good thing. I have no idea. That's way outside of my expertise, but in the end, I think what it does is it keeps us from wasting fish, right? Having fish in the bottom of our freezer. I mean, who here has cleaned out their freezer and found fish at the bottom? They're going, oh my God, I forgot about that one.
Yep. I made that mistake. I had a salmon fillet from years ago.
Yeah.
It was down in the basement and didn't realize it was there. So to your point, it's probably something that we should all do as anglers if we do keep fish, is just remind ourselves that every once in a while it's a good idea to maybe clean it out and check.
Yeah. Because before you get in trouble. But I don't think it's a hoarding thing. Maybe it's a hoarding thing for some people. Some people are just hoarders, and if they think they can get something for free, they just hoard whatever they can get. And but I don't think that's the norm. That's just the exception. Well, I think it's okay to bring fish home, and we also eat it while it's fresh, but you want to save it for a special occasion, maybe. So why not? Why can't you clean it and put it away for a special occasion when you have a date or a special event, a birthday, or you're having a friend over who loves fish like you, and you can have that together and celebrate it. And I think that's something. This is something else. I think we, as recreational anglers, I think we need to celebrate our love of fishing and more. And pictures are fantastic, for sure. And I think pictures probably are the number one way we celebrate our love of fishing, right? We share the pictures. We share those moments. But I think, and another way of doing it, because people are saying, well, I know a lot of sponsors are saying they don't want their pro staff showing up on social media doing grip and grin photos, because it's not demonstrating good high standard conservation, right? So and some sponsors are telling you, we don't want to see you do those pictures in social media with our logo attached to your name. So if now these grip and grin pictures are no longer sort of as acceptable as they were 5 years ago, and now they're seeing as, well, now you're just holding that fish out of the water needlessly and making it suffer. Maybe, and I think for whatever reason, we should just celebrate fishing by eating our fish once in a while, and with our friends, with our family, and just say, hey, look, I love this. I'm going to make this into a beautiful meal for all of us to enjoy. I'm going to tell you a story about how I caught this fish and where this fish came from and why this water body where this fish was living is healthy and strong, and why this fish is safe to eat, and why, my great-great-grandchildren are going to be able to go back there and do the same thing. And I think that's stupendous.
It is. That's what builds tradition. That's what has built what we're doing here tonight. Exactly that, because it fires up a passion to do this for the reasons that you mentioned. Awesome stuff. Now, I will say, I'll take a survey, if you will, of the folks who are listening. We got a bunch of people listening. Have you found, and I think this is a great point that Richard brings up, because of the cost of living, are you finding yourself keeping more fish for the table, or are you throwing the same number back, or nothing's changed? I'd be interested to see if the cost of living and the cost of food going up like it has somehow changed.
So can I add something to this?
Absolutely.
A little bit of background. So I did this calculation today. I thought, okay, you go out on Lake Ontario on a charter, you catch, say, 5 salmon, average 15 pounds, right? Or I think it was 7 kilos or something. I did it with kilos. So you bring home 5 fish. They weigh 7 kilos each for 35 kilos. You look on the Loblaws website, a kilo of salmon costs $35. Oof. So 35 kilos times $35, I think, came to just over, $1,200. Now that's just, that's including, you discard the skin, the fins, the tail, the guts, and the head. Maybe you're losing 20%, 25% of the weight on that stuff. But still, 20% off of $1,200, you're still looking at $900 in fish you just brought home.
Yeah, think about it. Think about that. So George brings up a great point that we should keep in mind. In Ontario, you can gift someone your fish, provided the package is labeled with the donor's name and the fish can be identified.
Lovely.
Great point that you bring up. But
that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
It still counts towards the donor's catch. So even if you are donating these fish, it is still considered your catch.
Possession?
I don't think
your
it's
catch.
possession.
Your catch, but not your possession.
So
not your possession.
In other words, you can't go out there and catch 30 salmon and just say, I'm donating it to the neighborhood. Like you can't.
Those 5 on the left are my wife's. The third set of 5 are my sons.
Exactly.
You're putting them out in the freezer.
Exactly.
All right, I get that.
It's great. Thanks, George, for bringing that up. Now, of course, we have now decided that size matters, species matters. Does the time of season also matter? Like, are you more apt to eating fish in the summertime, the fall, the spring, or do you prefer the hard water? That is, and what do you prefer?
Well, you know what? I think about the spring spawn and the fall spawn, right? Spring spawn fish, we are absolutely told that you're a complete a-hole if you interfere with the spring spawn by catching and keeping fish or even catching them. In the fall, totally different story, right? We're down there at the mouths of rivers intercepting fish heading up rivers to go spawn all the time. And it's what we do. And now, you know what? I'm thinking that in a lot of these put and take fisheries, it's totally what people expect you to do, you know? And so why is it that you have umpteen hatcheries pumping, thousands and tens of thousands of salmon into Lake Ontario every year, but you're not allowed to intercept them going up the river and take them home and eat them? It just, I understand to me, it's like saying, no, you cannot interfere with fish in the river. But at the same time, these fish have been introduced through human effort.
Right.
So why can't you harvest them? Because that's, for someone without a boat or someone who can't afford to go out in a boat and
Yeah.
an outfitter, you're a shore fisher by, requirement. You have no money for it. That's what you do. Why can't you pick a fish out of the river and take it home and eat it if it's not too dark? If it's still nice and silver, why not?
No, true enough. True enough. So we've discussed size, we've discussed species, we've discussed time of season, and I will say an early spring pike or a late fall pike, early walleye, late walleye, walleye through the ice, perch through the ice. That's my go-to. I enjoy that. And whitefish in the wintertime too is great. I love it smoked. It's so good smoked. But again, shallow water, dead of summer, dog days of summer. Am I going to eat a largemouth bass
from under a lily pad? No.
From a lily pad? No. My intention would be
no
to let it go. Now you get into the predicament. Okay, well, you've caught this fish, you've tried releasing it, keeps going belly up.
Yeah.
What do you do?
You take it home and eat it.
Right.
And if I too many times you tournament people, you say, oh, people say, oh, they're calling and they're just called a sketchy fish. You're not supposed to, but people do it. And I mean, look, there's all sorts of ways to bend rules in tournaments, and it happens all the time. But if it's dead, it's dead. Take it home and eat it.
Yeah.
Bite the bullet, take the penalty, weigh in the dead fish, and say, look, I'm taking that one home to eat. Sorry, whoops.
That's awesome.
It happens,
Some
right?
Great comments coming up here. I love this.
Yeah.
The interactions. Yeah. And just folks in terms of how they feel and what they think. This is the part that we truly love is the interaction. But okay. So with this all being said, I'm not sure if we're able to wrap it up with what we've discussed so far, but we've talked about species, we've talked about time of year, we've talked about whether it's sport or recreational and what is more apt to keeping fish. We've talked about possession and catch limits per day. Now you get the fish home, and I'd like to think that preparing that fish has a lot to do with how it's going to taste. We talked about bass, and it can be gamey for some. If that's the case, there are ways to take that game out. I mentioned is soak it overnight in milk.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Maybe you like walleye a certain way. Maybe you like to have pike a certain way. Whitefish, I talked about smoking it. What do you guys, if you could, your go-to when it comes to fish preparation, how do you like to eat your fish? Do you like it deep fried? Do you like it sauteed? Do you like it blackened, or do you like it roasted in an oven or tinfoil over, or poached? I guess poached is another way. How do you like your fish? How do you prefer your fish, Lawrence?
You know what? I think the easiest way is if you have a meat grinder and you're worried about bones, especially with the pike, and you have to take out that Y bone. It's so much easier just to grind it up and make beautiful fish cakes. And a fish cake with the right seasoning, anyone can eat a fish cake. Anyone. They're just delicious. And children eat them. Anyone eats them, and they're, you can eat them 100 different ways. You can eat them cold on a sandwich. You can eat them hot on a bun. You can eat them just on a plate next to some potatoes. I don't know. It's just so simple, right? It's just so simple, and it's the versatile. That's my sort of go-to favorite.
Yep. No, I like it. I do like deep fried as well. I also like poached fish. It's if you like a little bit of butter and you love the steam to create the final product, poached fish is really good. But I will say blackened. If you dip fish in a lemon juice, like concentrated lemon juice, and cook that outside layer with that lemon juice, because the citric acid, as you know, reacts. You get rid of the bacteria on the outside of that fish, and it's not going to penetrate all the way through because it's hard for it to do that. It gives that extra little lemony taste, and then just blackened it. Just blacken on either
Yeah.
side.
Yeah.
So good. So
We had some salmon like that the other day, and yeah, my wife caramelized the outside in a pan and then baked it in the oven. And oh my god, that was the best thing ever. Best thing ever. There
Look
was
at some of these deep fried in peanut oil. Yeah, Tony, I'm with you there.
Oh yeah, peanut oil is great. Yeah.
Pickerel piccata, a baked walleye recipe with lemon and capers.
Yeah, that sounds interesting.
Oh, that sounds very interesting. Gary's mentioned lemon juice and salt. Yeah, vinegar. That's a great one. Never made fish cakes, but who doesn't like crab cakes? Like, who does not like crab cakes?
No, that's what I'm saying. Like he pike cakes, right? Anything in a cake, any fish in a cake. It's just so versatile. You can spice it any way you want it. But my favorite is perch in butter on a pan in a pan. That's it. Perch in butter, a little bit of salt. Just any fish in butter with a little bit of salt. Gord Pizer and I were talking about, all these different breadings and things like that. And I said, Gord, in the end, I just put it in the pan with some butter and salt it lightly. And that's the way I eat my fish most of the time. And he goes, yeah, he said, dude, that's all you need, really.
Yeah. So again, to wrap up this topic, which has been, I think it's been a great topic. And is there anything that we have missed at all with this?
Well, we talked about fish consumption advisors, and I don't think we need to get into that. We've talked about that before. And, that's you just follow the science, And if you're nervous, if you have, if you're young and you're starting a young family and you're bringing food home for young people and pregnant people and nursing people, maybe you want to be a little more extra careful. At some point you get to the age where you just think, is it glowing? How much is it glowing?
Yeah. And I think it's also, it's a stigma as an angler. If you're an active angler and you're, well known in the angling community, George brings in, yes, the creel data suggests that it is true since the late 1990s, more walleye are harvested in the winter compared to the open water season. I believe that, but there's a misconception. Lawrence, if we were to ask, if we could be so bold as to ask currently right now, what freshwater fish do you have in your freezer and how much?
Salmon. I always have salmon and I always have some salmon. I have some cod, but I buy that. I'm buying that. And I always look for sustainably harvested wild fish. I pay a little
So
bit
in
more.
Terms of freshwater fish that's wild, how much do you figure you have in your freezer right now?
I eat it. I don't have any. I eat it. I bring it home and eat it. We eat our fish fresh. I just find, someone told me you lose 30% of the flavor when you freeze it. And yeah, some of the stuff you get at the grocery store, it's frozen already, so you got no choice. But you get some good deals and you get what you want, and then you have it when you need it. But otherwise, we just bring it home and clean it and cook it right away.
And I have to say, the flash freezing process, it doesn't allow for any bit of decay. Obviously, as a fish is filleted, it starts to decompose the minute it gets exposed to the atmosphere, exposed to air. It starts to decompose, and then you heat things up, put it out in the sunlight. We get bugs, maggots, and we can go on and on and on. There are ways that some people prefer. They like put it in freezer type bags, like airtight bags, and using some of those machines to take all the air out of it, because that reduces freezer burn. I know some people that will take a Ziploc bag and fill it right up to the brim with water and then freeze their fish like that. But to your point, at the end of the day, I myself, there's a misconception out there that folks, you must have a freezer full of fish, Scotty. No, as a matter of fact, I was actually shocked to find that one salmon fillet that we had in the basement. I didn't realize it was still there.
Yeah, I'm like you. Yeah, I hate to see it go bad. It costs so much money. It takes so much effort to let it go and hide in the bottom of the fridge, because we're talking small pieces too, right? So they easily disappear. Yeah, in the freezer, and then when you find them, it's burnt and it's just cold. Yeah, it's sad.
So to wrap all this up, where like the findings and some of the feedback that you're receiving, where is this going to be posted? Where can we find it? And
my chapter is going to go into this book called Eating Lake Ontario. That's University of Toronto Press is going to print it. It's all the contributors of the chapters have been told to write in plain language, no highfalutin, psychobabble from the scientist. It's going to be accessible. Anyone should be able to pick up this book, read it back to cover, and enjoy it and find it informative and quality information. So I think I'll let you know when the book comes out. I'm excited about it. I think it's a great idea, and if it works with Lake Ontario, maybe we'll feature the other Great Lakes as well. So that's coming out, and once it's out and it's got a little run, my chapter I'll release separately as well at some point. But yeah, this has been really helpful. I'm beating it around in my head trying to meet this deadline, but just hearing from you guys, and I'm going to go over through the comments later. I'll review those from everybody. So thank you, everyone.
That is so awesome. Look forward to it as always, Lawrence. And at the end of the day, I'm interested to see what the final result is going to be, because as I said, there's a lot of opinions out there. A lot of people feel strongly in a lot of ways. So yeah, I'm intrigued to see what it all looks like when you're all done, buddy. Well, listen, keep up the great work as always. We missed you last week, but you completely redeemed yourself this week. Thanks,
thanks, man. Appreciate the opportunity.
We'll see you on Monday, my friend.
All right, you guys.
Take care. We got Jay Barnucz coming up right after a word from his sponsor.
The fear of failure is failure itself. The world of science rewards the ones who are willing to try and fail. Because without the courage to embrace failure, ideas remain ideas. But with that courage to fail and to learn, ideas can change the world.
Tell you, that was an interesting topic that we had with Lawrence. I really enjoyed that.
It was.
I love the interaction from those who are watching. But Jay, welcome, my friend. How you doing?
I'm good, buddy. Doing really good. It was I've already spoiled a little bit. We'll talk about it, but boy, what a weekend it was.
We are definitely going to get on that topic, and there was lots that happened, especially in the tournament side of things, that we need to discuss. I would like to say at this point, there is a certain somebody that we need to mention because he has managed to do something that not many anglers have done, and I think you said it before we went live. How many anglers have gone back-to-back as Angler of the Year?
So I only think 3 have done it. And I think it was Rick Clunn, Kevin Van Dam, and Roland Martin. That's it. So
think of those names.
In 30 years, yeah. And if you listen to Chris's interview, if you go on Bassmaster on the Facebook page, they interview Chris. And, Chris is a pretty confident angler, and he was at a loss for words because he is now in that class of angler, and it's amazing that, and it's coming home to Canada 2 years in a row. If you ask most elite anglers which award means most to them, it's usually a toss-up between the Classic and Angler of the Year, but most will go Angler of the Year because it's a testament to your resilience and your ability to out-compete all of your peers. It's basically the best angler of the year of all the anglers, and shows your consistency and your drive. And Chris won that 2 years in a row. And for a young guy from Canada, that's amazing. That says a lot about our anglers here in Canada and the type of anglers that we can produce. And kudos to the Johnson brothers and Gussie and Cooper for putting Canada, up with the echelon of bass anglers. It's impressive for a country that, well, we don't have a lot of areas with bass compared to the vastness of our country. And whereas in the U.S. there's bass fishing in every state, right? And quite good bass fishing. So it shows how good our anglers are and how versatile our anglers are. So kudos to Chris. Amazing.
Couldn't agree more. Well said, Jay. In fact, let's take a trip back. It's only a couple days old now, but let's see Chris on stage receiving the trophy, because I'll tell you, it truly is remarkable. And at the very end, you could tell the emotion started to take over.
For the second year in a row, Chris Johnson is your progressive Bassmaster Angler of the Year. Back-to-back domination, and Chris Johnston rules the season. We started with 101, and now there is one. That one is your progressive Bassmaster Angler of the Year. Chris, you can bookend that mantle now because you got one for each side.
Oh, it's unbelievable. I really still don't know what to say, but just thanks to Bass. Thanks for everyone coming out, cheering us on. Not just me, but you guys are the reason that we can do this for a living. All the fans that support us, and Bass for putting this and hosting it, giving us a stage to go fishing, and it's pretty wild that we get to go catch bass for a living. So I'm super grateful. I'll never forget that. And yeah, all my sponsors that support me day in, day out, and especially, like I said, my family that's here, and my kids, Beckett and Bo, they couldn't make it, but I know they want to be here and they're watching, so I'll be home soon, buddy.
You got one for each of them now. I'm going to let them hoist it one more time. Ladies and gentlemen, your 2025 Progressive Bassmaster Angler of the Year, Chris Johnson. Back-to-back domination.
Domination truly is, it's remarkable to see him, as you mentioned, do so well on a circuit that is really dominated by a lot of great sticks down in the States when it comes to bass angling. But we got a few up here that know a thing or two as well.
Well, and, you know, for folks that don't know, going into this tournament, so during the tournament year, there's 9 elite tournaments. Jay Shakirik was leading Angler of the Year most of the year, and close behind was Chris and Trey McKinney. Now, Trey McKinney won Rookie of the Year last year and would have won Angler of the Year last year, except for one mishap in one tournament where Trey was late. And this is how close it is. You can't make mistakes. It really shows your dedication to the sport to make this award. And then going into this last weekend's tournament, you know, it was a tie between Chris and Trey McKinney. And then after day one, Chris and Trey were not doing that well, and Jay Shakirik was in a top 10. So Jay Shakirik, after day one, jumped ahead of both of those for Angler of the Year in the points. It came down to literally the third day, and Chris only landed 6 fish, but they were the right ones to beat out Trey, to beat out Jay Shakirik. And often Angler of the Year is usually dominated by somebody who really dominates through the whole year. And it's happened many times where Angler of the Year is decided before the final tournament, let alone almost the final day this year. So it really kept a lot of us on the edge of our seats. I'm sure the Bass live stream was got a lot of follows this past weekend because of this, and pretty awesome, I gotta say. Now, I didn't follow it as closely as I probably would have, given how busy I was. But you know, at night I was checking in, and during some of the breaks I was checking in during the day during the event, our event. But boy, how awesome is that? But then we'll jump to where I was, and I saw a lot of young anglers, a lot of young Chris Johnsons vying for their opportunity to move on, right? So it really hit home to me as I'm following along on my phone selfishly thinking about Chris Johnson and his ability. The big picture was I'm at an event where we're trying to decide basically who will be the next Chris Johnson or Cooper Gallant or Danny McGarry, or you name the anglers that have come through. You know, and a special shout out to Cooper and Danny, who really are, when the junior and senior high school program started in Ontario, when it really took flight, I'll say, you know, Danny and Cooper were really the keystones of that. And to see where we've gone over a few years since that time, it's amazing. And we'll talk about that.
Well said. I would say the only similarities in terms of the magnitude of what happened this weekend, and they were both catching bass, and even though one is a 2-time Angler of the Year, as you mentioned, some young anglers were competing to be the next one. Wind played a factor at that tournament as well as yours. But I'll let you talk about the weather and how it affected the fishing.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. if anyone's familiar with, so let me tell you about what happened this weekend. So this weekend, the Erie Bassmasters, which is our local club, our local senior club down here, where we have adults, but we also have a junior club run by Cody Colfax. And, we have a great group of anglers, both high school and junior, and we put forward a bid to host the 2025 Ontario Youth Championship. So what we saw was we had several teams come down from across Ontario, and we had 17 teams from high schools, and we had I think 7 junior teams, and so 24 teams. And basically the top 2 spots of the high school side and the top junior team get to go on to the championship, the Bassmaster Championship next year. And for those of you that follow the show, in the last few weeks, you saw Trevor and Tristan attend as our Ontario representatives, and Damian Kimball was our second team, and they got to go to Georgia and compete against the best high school anglers, across not just North America, some international. And so this past weekend was the opportunity for another class of anglers, and I'm going to use the word class because these are some of the classiest young anglers going right now. And they came down to Long Point Bay. Now, Long Point Bay, it is a large embayment of Lake Erie. It's if anyone's familiar with it, you have Long Point along the south, and it's about 30 kilometers of Long Point. But then you have this inner bay that's basically a shallow fishery of mostly largemouth, some smallmouth. And then you have the open waters of Lake Erie. So you have 2 very different fisheries. You can fish for largemouth in the inner bay or smallmouth in the outer bay or out in main Lake Erie. But the trouble is that you often have weather as a factor. And so because we're dealing with young anglers and some captains that volunteer their time taking out these kids, if anyone was out on the water this weekend, if you've heard some of the stories about the pre-fishing at the CSS event coming up, like the weather was not great this weekend. A lot of westerly, southwest winds. So we were a little concerned going in about the weather, but the inner bay provides some shelter from those winds. And so we were able to have a successful day one. Now on day one, the tournament committee, which I'm on, but there was several of us on the committee. And Scotty, in these situations, you need to basically, it's not always consensus, but you have to have a committee to vote on these things. You don't want it coming down to one person. So we decided on day one to limit it to the inner bay. And so that meant that the competitors would basically have to fish for largemouth. And so to get into the inner bay from Turkey Point, which is in the outer bay just a little bit, they have to run to the south and then basically swing west into the inner bay. And the anglers did that. They came back, and I'll be honest with you, there were some good bags caught. In fact, there was an adult tournament out of Collins Harbor just down the lake on Saturday, and some of these young anglers caught bigger weights than the adult tournament out of Collins Harbor on the same day under the same conditions. Yeah, it was really cool to see that when I found that out. So after day one, the leading bag was just over 13 pounds for 5 largemouth. And the anglers did great. And then day 2 came along, and day 2, the weather in the morning was fine. It was flat, relatively flat, considering now, if you know Lake Erie, Scotty, if it blows hard one day, it never lays flat. It takes a day or two for that lake to lay down again. But the wind switched from southwest to north basically, or northwest, and it laid down pretty good. So we decided, okay, it's going to lay down till about noon. We'll let the anglers go out, but we gave a caution on the main lake that by 12 o'clock, it's going to pick up again. And so we cautioned the captains to make sure that use your judgment. And I'm going to say, for the most part, a lot of the captains fished the main lake in the morning, but then come the afternoon, they retreated back to the inner bay when that wind picked up. And of course, because safety being number one, I was really happy to see most of the captains did that for the safety of themselves and the young anglers they had out with them. And so everyone came back safely. Not boat check-in is not just to see what late penalties we're going to dish out, or if we're going to. Boat checking is so important to make sure everyone made it back safely, and everyone made it back safely each day. And, for this event, it's particularly important because you're dealing with such young anglers. You got parents watching, grandparents there. These aren't adults. These are kids. We're talking ages 8 to 12 and 13 to 18. And so, but they made it back safe. Everyone had a good time. A lot of happy kids. Fishing isn't always what you want. You got to catch them, even missed opportunities. But I know in the end, from everyone I talked to, it was a great event. And we'll do a bit of this, but yeah, Gary De Silva, Gary, shout out to you, man. You had the cameras rolling the whole time. I know how important it is to document these events because it's so important to show people what we do. And I say we as a Bass Nation in Ontario, and how we could run these events and to show the joy of everyone attending these events. I was busy with fish care and just general running around doing tournaments, making sure the Heather was looking after the weigh-in and doing the spreadsheets, and Bianca was doing receipts, and we had weighmasters and MCs, and I'm running around backstage. But I know how important it is to have a photographer on hand to catch these moments. And I want to really give a big shout out to Gary he did a lot of things this weekend with the Saga City Club, but doing the videos that he did helped sort of basically capture those memories forever. Amen. And I sent you the one video of the winners, and I've watched it a few times. I'm not gonna lie, even though I was in the video in a couple spots, it's like it's happened so fast. I got to sit down today and watch it a couple times and actually kind of relive it all. It was great, really good.
Let's do that. Let's do exactly that. We'll relive it, and you can explain who the winners are, what the significance of that win is, and what is next for that team of anglers, because I think that is truly what folks don't maybe understand the importance of, that this tournament provided these anglers. It wasn't just a great day of fishing and you went home with some hardware. It meant you were going to be competing with the elites of your age group. So that's really cool.
Such an amazing crowd today. Championship Sunday.
Great crowd.
First place, and they'll be representing Team Ontario in 2026. On the juniors, we have Talon Hawkins and Carter Smith.
So these two young anglers, they're the top junior team, and they're going to represent Ontario at the junior championship next year. And so Talon and Carter, they are from the high school, the Kawartha Lakes or Kawartha Chapter High School, or our junior club. And their boat captain is Kevin Hall, who's a local angler who captained these kids locally. So they had a local, and a lot of the coaches were local anglers who are very familiar with the water, and not just the fishing, but also the safety concerns, which really helped us in these decisions. So awesome. Look at these two. It's awesome, man. Look at that. Like, got a couple Chris Johnsons right there. It's awesome.
True enough.
Yeah.
Love it.
And a shout out to Shimano. Bob Mahoney was there. Finn, he was a captain, right? And I got to catch up with Bob a couple times on the weekend, and Bob and I are buddies, and just being able to see the support that Shimano puts forward to this program, all the sponsors, but it's great to have Bob there, not only for supporting the program, but also being a coach and being one of the teams there is great.
Amen. Couldn't have said it better. All right. Next up.
Yeah.
So I didn't get to hear the name.
So these two, this is Phoenix and Caleb, and they came in second. So they're the second place team, and they weighed in. What was their weight here? Their weight for 2 days was 22.58 for 2 days, and a mix of smallmouth and largemouth. And it was close. The third place team was only half a pound behind them. So the third place team, the runners up are half a pound out, which ended up being Nolan and Riker, who are with the St. Catharines chapter. So these are close weights. It was a very, very close event. But that's fishing. That's how it goes. So So these two young men are going to represent Ontario, because 2 high school teams get to go to the high school championship next year.
Incredible. And last but not least, of course, the De Silvas are watching. So without further ado, let us share this.
Winners on the high school side, representing Team Ontario in 2026, we have Michael Florio and Christian De Silva.
These 2 hammers played in 26-15 for 2 days, and actually on day 1, they weren't leading it. They were in 2nd place after day 1. Sorry, 3rd place after day 1, and then they had to come back, and they came back with a 12-pound bag, almost 13 pounds on day 2, and they actually ended up with basically, I think it was a 3.5-pound margin over 2nd place. They had a great event. So Michael Florio, he's with the Hamilton Club. You can see the logo on his shirt there. He's with Hamilton Bassmasters. His Mike Florio is the coach as his dad, and it's kind of neat actually, because Mike's from Hamilton, but he grew up fishing Long Point Bay, and actually the Florios are from Simcoe. I went to high school with Mike's brother Dominic, and Dom. The Florios came down on the weekend, and I got to catch up with some old friends from way back when and see them and talk fishing. But these two did a great job. Christian's they're both just great anglers and great humans, man. Like, I got to give a shout out to these 2 and several of the other teams, especially the high school anglers. They were so gracious on the mic. So my good friend Brad Thompson, he was the MC of the event. Brad does a great job he MCs a lot of tournaments down here, and he loves giving the anglers the mic. And quite often, anglers are terrible public speakers, terrible. And so many of the high school anglers, they are mature beyond their years. They took the mic. They thank their parents. They thank their sponsors. They thank the organizers. They talked about what they did. Maybe not after day 1. There's some secrets that were kept. But Scotty, I was so impressed with these young anglers and how even the ones who didn't do that well, they still held their heads high. They thanked their coaches. A lot of the coaches were able to come on stage. We wanted to make sure that everyone got their opportunities, right? So we actually set it up at the site where we had enough docks where everyone could just tie their boats up so that the anglers and their coach could come on stage and share their experience with the crowd, especially on day 2. And I've been to a lot of tournaments at this venue. This is one of the biggest tournaments outside of the 2015 qualifier, which was the Senior Bass Nation group. But dude, there was 70 boats in that tournament. So right away, you're going to get more anglers. Outside of that event, this is the biggest one I've seen, because there was so many, not just family and friends, but local citizens. The community rallied around. We had people now Turkey Point's a small lakeside town. Not a lot there. It's kind of a touristy town. It's kind of like a mini Wasaga Beach or Grand Bend. But, we had people who needed places to stay. We had people whose cottages got canceled last minute. These things happen. The community rallied around so many people and made sure the event was a success, not just on the water, but off the water. And I will say, although Lake Erie is a tough place to fish sometimes with the weather, I will say it all the time, Turkey Point Marina, McDonald Turkey Point Marina is the best venue. They put that stage up every year for bass tournaments at that venue. They held concerts there too, but that stage was built to have fishing tournaments there. And that grassy area is all docks all around. And it's just a fantastic backdrop with the Canada flags. And Dan, who's the assistant manager, each morning, Dan has the voice of an angel. He's saying, "Oh, Canada," both mornings. And Scotty, I will admit, and if anyone watched me during "Oh, Canada" both days, it almost brought me to tears how awesome. Picture this, dude. Sun rising. We have a marina filled with young anglers going out. And then, you have 3 huge Canada flags, and you have Dan DeMeester singing "O Canada," like all of this happening. And dude, it doesn't get any better, man. It doesn't get any better. Just fantastic. Just fantastic.
Wow. Well, you've done a phenomenal job explaining it, and I will say on behalf of anyone who wasn't there, you probably feel at this point that you were there just based on how you described it. But yeah, thanks so much, Gary, for all the footage you took, and of course, a lot of some of the pre-work that was done here on the Power Hour and on live to discuss where this is and where it goes and how anglers can get involved. Because at the end of the day, you know, after seeing this, after selling this, like you guys did this year, you've done a great you've done a great job in past years as well, but this year especially, you've done a phenomenal job selling it. If you're a young angler, how do you get involved in this?
You just go on OntarioBass.com and you check out the youth fishing tab, and you get in touch with Bass Nation, and they will get in touch. You can get in touch with a local club. So like there was representatives. So at this event, we had a club, a team from Petawawa Bassmasters come down. Petawawa. We had anglers from Mississauga, Kawarthas, Erie, just literally all points across Ontario. And if you noticed, you know, nobody who placed, like it, all the anglers who won, the two winning high school teams and the junior team, you know, they aren't from Erie, right? Like a lot of people think Erie has the advantage, but I want to tell people that, and they do, like in a way that it's their home water, but these anglers are good. These are good anglers, and these are the best anglers of this class, this age class coming out. And it's just fantastic to be able to see them show off their skills. And it's still fishing though. And I know there's some anglers who are hungry to come back next year. There's rumor that we might host it again next year here because it worked out as well as it did. And so that's not confirmed yet, but I think that's definitely something that's going to be discussed, because I really think that, you know, Scotty, you know this as well as I do, a good tournament needs a good venue.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's nice to move it around, but sometimes you need that good venue to really, really make it work. 100%. And Turkey Point really sets up nicely for this kind of event. So, but I will give a big shout out to all the volunteers. This group of volunteers, and I've run a lot of events in my life. This group of volunteers is one of the best I've ever worked with. And, you know, we had volunteers at the boat ramp, because we have to help launch. So the captain goes out. Well, the kids, most of them can't even drive. So you need someone to help launch boats, park trucks. You need, we're handing out bags of ice. We're doing boat checks. So we have volunteers doing boat checks, because we always do boat checks, but really made sure boat checks were done, you know, PFDs, live wells, kill switches, lights, you know, doing all the right things, making sure the check-ins are done to make sure everybody gets back safely. And thanks, Alicia. The whole Barnucz family stepped up. Like Heather ran the spreadsheet. I'll tell a little story about Heather. And usually Heather doesn't jump right in with events. She's there, she supports, she's there, she's helping out. But this year I actually had a spreadsheet, you know, to tally the weights. And after day one, she didn't like my spreadsheet. It wasn't as good as she wanted it. So she asked if she could update it. And I said, "It's your spreadsheet now, honey. You fix the spreadsheet any way you want." And what was nice about it was that we were able, because of what she did with the spreadsheet, we were able to tally up the weights really fast. We had a great raffle system. You know, we had a great raffle for the kids. All the kids got prizes. And that helped us, give us time to do the final tallies. Bianca, so you saw the 2 Bass Nation jerseys there. So Bianca and Anthony, they represent the Ontario Bass Nation. They're the co-youth directors. Bianca recorded we had a receipt book to do the weights. Does that make sense, Scotty? So that if something went down with the spread, this is how paranoid I am, dude. If something went down with the spreadsheet, we had receipts. And then just all the pictures being shared, like just, oh man, what a fantastic event. And there's Cody on the left there. And,
Yep.
you know, this was Cody's first big tournament running one like this. And I think he thought he bit off more than he could chew, but he did a great job, man. And his number one priority is those kids, regardless of the age. Now, his son fishes Erie Bassmasters, but he treats all those kids as if they're his own. And I wanted to make sure that we ran the event so that Cody could focus as I'm going to call Cody like the leader, like Gary's like the leader of his club, right? So Cody is in charge of the kids in the Erie Club, and being able to look after those kids, plus make sure the event went well. That's a lot of pressure on Cody. Cody, dude, shout out to you, man. You did a great job, and I'm proud of you for all the work you put into it. And he works hard. He hustles hard. So yeah, just fantastic. So we'll see what happens next year. But yeah, I hope it comes back. I'll do it again. You won't have to convince me. It'll be easy.
Well, again, you know, your dedication, your entire family's dedication to helping our angling community as a whole is something that we can never commend you enough for. You are definitely one of the leading families in my eyes in our angling community. So again, thanks for all you do, and to Steph and the rest of the crew, Trevor, who I think was standing beside Christian. Like awesome stuff. Just and Heather, again, I can't say enough good things about you for putting up with all this stuff.
Well, and I will add, because in our family, Stephanie has the best penmanship. So guess who got to write the weights on the whiteboard?
Atta girl. Atta girl.
She did fantastic. So Brad Thompson, our resident MC, he calls her Vanna White for any Wheel of Fortune fans in the room. So she is Brad's Vanna White. And every time I gave her a hard time, the MC gave me a hard time. So I like to tease my kids as much as any other parent likes to, but Vanna White's got the MC in her back pocket. So what can I say?
Good for you, Steph.
Yeah, man.
Well, a great rendition, a great recap of what was a fantastic event. Thanks for sharing all that, Jay, with us, and I look forward to seeing the lead up to next year's event. And with you being there and all the notables, I think it'll be exceptional. But congratulations to the winners. Yes. Go Canada, go! We look forward to you representing our country, and you are already doing a fantastic job of that. So again, thanks for your hard work and dedication, and to all the volunteers, the families that buy into all this. Thanks for your dedication and your support.
And I know Christian and Mike and Phoenix and Caleb and our junior champions, Talon and Carter. Like, we'll get you on the CFN next year as you're planning your trip down. And we don't even know where it's going to be yet, I don't think. So we will, we'll give you the full CFN treatment next year before leading up to your big trip down south. Absolutely.
Sounds like a plan, and consider it done.
Nice.
Now, with the CISA event coming up this weekend, and some notable sticks that are participating in this event, I have to ask, Jay, is your prediction, are we going to see another Dirty 30?
I'll be shocked if there isn't, Scotty. I'll be shocked if there isn't. But boy, I'm telling you, there is some crazy weather coming this weekend. So, like, what's going to be interesting is that you're getting these westerly or southwest winds blowing all week long, right down Lake Ontario, right into Kingston. And I'm not worried about it, but I think what it makes is pre-fishing may not be what people hope it's going to be. Does that make sense, buddy? Like, and I really think that, you know, like I'm looking here, like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, like you're looking at southwest winds gusting like 30, gusting to 50 at times. But then into Friday and Saturday, the winds are going to totally switch from the south to the north and then blow hard out of the north. And so I think pre-fishing for a lot of folks it's going to be a tough pre-fish because of the conditions, never mind the fishing, the weather itself. And I think that's really going to change how things go. So yeah, I'm curious to see how this rolls out this weekend because weather's going to be a major factor. Now, there's 30-pound bags out there, and I think we will see a dirty 30, especially being Lake Ontario itself, right? Like not just the river, but the lake itself. So, is there any plans to change the boundaries due to weather, or are they just kind of hoping for the best, Scotty? What do you know?
Thankfully, I'm not a part of that decision because that would be a tough one to be a part of. Thankfully, Brad and I are just looking after the expo side of things, so we won't have to make any of those tough decisions. But I know the directors and organizers talking to Moose, they're really hoping for a bit of a change in the weather because, to your point, it does look like it's going to be a bit of a grind. Alicia's already saying that 10-foot waves apparently down the river. Anglers had to bail at the closest launch and carpool to get their trailers. So yeah, it can get ugly, and based on what you're saying, it's certainly showing its teeth at this point.
I think it's going to be anyone's game. You know, assuming I pray that it works out well because I definitely don't like it when it ends up being like a one-day shootout kind of thing. And that's what I dreaded on Long Point was it's nicer when it's 2 days because 2 days really shows the resiliency and the sort of the abilities of anglers, even the young anglers. And so I hope that they are able to get out there for a couple of days to make the most of it. But I also, safety first, right? Like that and where they're coming out of, it's like if it's a southwest wind coming into Kingston, it's going to be or even a south wind worse. At least with southwest, you're a little bit of shelter around the river islands, but south wind coming right in, it's going to be tough. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. It'll be good though. It'll be good.
And being one of the larger bass tournaments available in Ontario, if not the largest, I'm not 100% sure based on number of boats and what others are basically having and hosting themselves. This is going to be quite an event. The whole downtown right at the waterfront is all going to be shut down. So we've got vendors that are going to be there. There's going to be restaurants and there's going to be a whole mess of stuff. And it is long weekend. And how I know it's going to be busy, you can't get a hotel room to save your life in Kingston right now. There's no rooms available. It is booked solid. So
I see Alicia's comment about the 10-foot waves. I'm still in hearing that a lot of anglers bailed into a bay and then had to carpool back to get their trailers safely. That I don't ever heard of that before. I've heard of like 1 or 2 boats having to do that, but not like 10 boats saying that's enough. We're out of here. No, that's smart, like big time. But boy, that's scary, dude.
It is.
Honestly.
It sure is.
Yeah. So
anything else, Jay, you wanted to talk about before we let you go?
No, man. We're heading into a long weekend.
Yes.
Major weather change this weekend, Scotty. Like we're looking at highs of 20 and like lows. And this is where I live. Highs of 21, lows of 9. I'm welcoming the weather change. The fishing has been a bit of a grind the past month. Like we've caught fish, but I think this hot weather and this drought that we're in with the low water, and I'm hoping this weather does change things up a bit. I really do. So, and September has traditionally been a nice month the last few years. So I'm hoping that we'll see a nice transition into September and everyone starts catching some more fish because it's not just us here that's struggling to catch. Like we're catching, dude, but we're just not catching a lot unless you're out walleye fishing on Lake Erie, and that's a whole other.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I'm hoping, and I hope the winds lay down a bit just so even the walleye anglers can get out. That's one thing I noticed on the weekend. You'll appreciate this. When you're in a tournament like what we had, you make these decisions about weather, and you hope you made the right call. You just hope you made the right call. And from Turkey Point, a lot of the anglers, walleye anglers, will come out. They'll leave first thing in the morning around 5 or 6, and they'll run straight out towards the elbow, right out towards Bluffs Bar, out towards the tip. And then about 2-3 hours later, you see them coming in. And there was a couple guys in a lund, like an 18-foot lund, and they came in and they were like, I'm trying to think of the scene in a movie. Anyways, like their whole front is soaked, and they have a line down the middle of their arm, but their back is dry. And I'm like, hey boys, how was the trip? And he goes, we're a little wet. I said, oh, well, you missed a spot on your back, because they were just eating waves coming and not a small boat, like a good size 18-foot line. And just rough conditions. And even the walleye guys had a tough time this past weekend on Erie. So yeah.
Jay, as always, I can't thank you enough for your time, your dedication,
Thanks,
instilling the passion in all of us. Keep up the great work. Take a load off, dude. Kick up the feet tonight.
Yeah. Have
yourself a beverage, and we'll talk to you real soon. But thanks for
Heather told me I got to take a break. She said you're looking a little tired today on the way home from work, so I will do that this weekend. We'll see you guys.
Right on, Jim.
Tight lines, everybody.
Amen, brother. Thanks for that. Well, that is the end of our show. Thanks so much for joining us for as long as you did. For all those who left a comment, really appreciated that. To Lawrence and Jay, again, your dedication to what we do here is will always be remembered, and we truly appreciate all the time that you take to spend a little bit of time with our community. Jim, hopefully you got home safe. Hopefully everything went well. We'll see you next Monday, but before that, we'll see you this weekend down at the CSA event in Kingston. If you want to stop by, we're going to be right down by the waterfront at Confederation Park. Come join us. Come say hello, and we'll swap some stories and hopefully tell a few fish tales. But it's going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be a lot of folks down there, so look forward to seeing you all there. In the meantime, have yourselves a great week. Tourney Tuesday will be tomorrow. I'll do my very best to try and do the draw with Mike's help from wherever it is that he is enjoying himself. But until then, we will see you. We'll see you Tuesday. If not, we will see you Wednesday. And if not, we'll see you on the weekend. Take care. Dave, take us away, buddy. All the best, guys. Love you all. Peace.
Well, as much as I hate to admit it, I guess we've run out of time. So I've enjoyed it, but I'm going to do something I haven't done since season 1. Turn out the lights. The party's over. They say that all good things must end.